My name is Marge Mesita. I am chair of ANC 6E, and I am calling this meeting to order. The agendas are on the side table if anybody needs them. I'm sorry I was unable to print out the crime stats. I did receive them late, like just as I was walking out the door. So anyone who really wants written crime stats, I will be happy. You just send me an email and I will shoot the email to you with those crime stats on it. I'm sure our men in blue are going to tell us what it's all about, but if you particularly want a written copy, just let me know. Okay, call to order. Antonio, attendance?
All right, hello everyone. Good evening. How you all doing? ANC 6E01.
Present.
2,
Here.
3, 4, 5,
Here. Oh, here, four is here.
4. I not see.
4 is here.
6, 7. All right, you have 4.
Commissioner Wiggins sends his regrets. He is unable to make the meeting this evening in his 4-year term. This is the first meeting he is missing. His wife went into the hospital, and he is there taking care of her. So he asks your forgiveness for not being here. Okay. There are a couple of seats up here up in the front area. Please make sure you get to a seat. If the commissioners would take a look at the agenda given to them and see if there's any changes that you wish to make. All in favor of the agenda as is, please signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Okay. Minutes from the last meeting. I need a motion to accept the minutes.
I move that we approve the minutes of the September 1st, 2015 AC6E meeting with any changes to be submitted.
Second?
I second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Anyone opposed? So it is 6-0-0.
Excuse me.
Please put your phones on vibrate.
Yes, ma'am.
Thank you so much. Our PSA reports. So who do we have first? We have you, Officer Berlin. Come on up.
Good evening.
Good evening.
Can you hear me?
Yeah.
How's everybody this evening?
Excuse me. Good, how are you?
Good, thank you. Hopefully you guys can hear me. I'm Officer Berlin.
You want to put up your mouth?
Some of you may see me walking around endlessly around the neighborhood. Say hi if you see me. I don't
Okay.
bite. I missed the last meeting because I was at another community meeting somewhere else. But I'm back here and I'll be at these meetings from now on going forward.
Welcome.
I'm going to give you a 30-day synopsis of what happened in PSA 308. Now, PSA 308 is the PSA that I patrol. It's where a lot of you live. The boundaries are New Jersey Avenue to 9th Street, and from Rhode Island Avenue, actually S Street to New York Avenue. Okay. In the last 30 days, from 9/5 to 10/5, we had 3 robberies, one robbery gun, 6 burglaries, 13 thefts, 19 thefts from auto, and 1 stolen auto. The good news is that's down significantly from the same period of time last year. Total crime in that 30-day period here was 43 crimes. Last year was 52. That's the good news. The bad news is that we're getting a spike in burglaries. I don't know if you guys are aware of that. There's a couple things that I would suggest that you do. One of the burglary calls that I was on recently, the homeowner left the windows unlocked and the alarm was not on. She has a cat, but the cat is not a guard cat. The cat needs to be fed. So, that being said, there's a lot of things that we can do to work together to mitigate the burglaries. Make sure your house is secured. If you have an alarm, turn it on. If you're going to be out of town for an extended period of time, even if you don't know your neighbors, try to get to know them so you can let them know to keep an eye on your house. The people that alerted us to the burglary were construction workers across the street. Okay, so that being said, I hope you guys can, give us some assistance in trying to mitigate that. The second thing is the thefts from water are down significantly in PSA 308. I think that's a product of the fact that the weather's getting a little bit cooler, but two, I think a lot of the people are being a little bit more cognizant about leaving things in their cars. As I said, if you have guests coming from out of town, please make sure that you tell them to bring everything inside. Don't even leave anything in the trunk, because they can unlatch the trunk from the interior. If they make entrance to the interior of the car, they can press the trunk latches on a lot of these newer cars, and they can get into the trunk. And that's one of the first places that we see that they're looking. Okay?
Okay.
Does anybody have any questions for me?
We appreciate you going down to New York Avenue.
Okay, I'll be down there a little bit more. I've been
I
given a
know.
little bit of leeway by my boss to pretty much patrol the entire PSA 308 now, so you'll see me creeping in and out of alleys. And if I'm in front of your house, don't become alarmed, because it's usually not for any specific reason other than I'm just checking to see what's going on your street.
So I'm not sure if this is to you or to a different speaker, but I'm on Kirby Street.
Different speaker.
That's 5D.
5D.
When he comes, we'll,
Okay.
okay.
Any questions about the third district that I can address for you guys regarding police, crime? Any suggestions that you have for us? Any things that you want me to take back to my commander or my lieutenant?
Not a question or a suggestion, but I want to publicly thank Commander Carroll for listening to the community and for maintaining you in your post here in 308.
I appreciate that.
Thank you for your continued service.
I appreciate that, and it's great to be back, although I never left. There was some talk that I was going to be moved, but the nice people of the community expressed their desires to keep me here, and I'm glad to be safe and sound at home with you guys.
Awesome.
Keeping us safe and sound.
Thanks, Officer Berlin, we really appreciate, and we love having you in the neighborhood, so we are so glad you're staying. Is there someone here from 1D? Okay.
5D's coming shortly. They're en
They're
route.
not here, they're...
They'll be here shortly.
Michelle, be
officer.
quiet, because you're...
No, but he's coming shortly, because I have constituents who have
Okay, last
concerns.
month, we cut short Sursum Quarter because it was late at the end of the meeting, and I promised you guys you would be first. So if Sursum Quarter would like to come up.
Sure.
Good evening, Madam Chair, members of the committee. Thank you again for having us come back. I just want to give you a quick update on what we've done since our last meeting and when we left off. Really, the architect was getting ready to walk through the plan, so I will turn it over to him very quickly. But just to give you an update, since the last time we met, the Sursum Corda Co-op, the members had their regular member meeting, and we gave them an update as to where we are in the PUD process and with the ANC. And many of those members from Sursum Corda are here this evening, so I would just like for all of the people here from Sursum Corda to either stand, raise your hand so you can be recognized. Thank you. We have also met with Commissioner Barnes, a single-member district representative, for the South property, and we also met with Commissioner Padro as the chair of the Development and Zoning Committee. And from our discussions, or I'm sorry, what is it, Development and Zoning?
I haven't shared that,
Oh, I'm sorry.
but that's okay.
Okay, sorry about that. But in response to the conversations that we've had with the various stakeholders, we did update our benefits and amenities package to include a more robust package as it relates to the immediate neighborhood users and organizations, and you'll see that reflected on the backside of the benefits and amenities sheet that I just handed out to you. So items 11 through 16 represent really a revised benefits and amenities package as it relates to the immediate neighborhood. And so with that, if there are, unless you guys have any questions, I am prepared to turn it over to the architect who was just starting to walk through the plans when we left off.
I have a question, and I'm not sure if this is the appropriate moment or maybe a little later. So with the low-income piece for the residents that are coming back, now, if a resident does not come back, whether they get married, die, move on, life moves on, right? We're talking years from now. What happens to that unit that was promised to that one resident?
Okay, so the way the PUD application is crafted now, there will be 143 units reserved for the families
Correct.
at Surfing Court. It's not limited to the head of households.
Okay.
So if the head of household passes on, moves away or whatever, there's still an opportunity for the residents, people that live there now, if it's a different, someone other than the head of household, to occupy that unit.
So, but what if no one, what if, like, there's 3 people in that unit now, all 3 of them aren't coming back? What happens to that unit?
Okay, so that unit will not, to answer your question, it will not remain in perpetuity for people of Sursum Corda. We have not yet. A lot of this will depend on kind of the opt-out voucher process, but it will not remain in perpetuity for Sursum Corda residents.
So would that be affordable, or would that be market rate?
It'll be affordable. We are required under the small area plan to have 199 affordable units, so they will always be affordable. They may not be designated specifically for Sursum for the life of the project, but they will always be affordable.
199 units out of how many? 1,000?
1,142.
How does that work? Everybody else that builds in the city has to build 28%.
This is not, so
Affordable housing.
if you are getting property from the district, like a land disposition agreement, that is the case. They're at, I think, 30%, 30% of affordable units. This is not district property, this is private property.
But
And we're proposing 20%, we're about 20%.
199 units out of 1,000 or
It comes up to
1,100
18%.
is not.
It's 18%. 18% of the units are affordable.
And
Whereas under IZ, we would only be required to do.
And I'm going to listen because I don't want to make a judgment, but on your facts and information sheet, and I think you guys passed that on to us, right? Number 8, where these people will either get to opt out or go through a voucher program. If they are owners, they don't go through this, do they?
They still have to, because they're being subsidized now as owners.
So they could be told, after this process is ready to put people back in, that they can't go back into their home-owned property.
All of the people there should qualify, right? If they're there properly, should qualify to
Well,
come
go back to if they're there properly.
So all of the heads of households, to our knowledge, qualify for the subsidy that they're receiving, are qualified to be in Sursum Corda under the contracts. And we have to assume going forward that they will continue to qualify. That they'll continue to qualify.
Are the
once-
same qualifications what's there that they came in under? I mean, this HUD and DCHA stuff, is that all how they got in there in the first place?
So I'm sure, go ahead.
The whole issue is that we had a mortgage which we paid off. We have a debt with HUD of $8 million. So technically, if we paid HUD off, we will own that property outright. Our voucher program is under HPAP. That's built in the land. So if anybody today move off Sursum Corda, they don't have anything coming. So what we're doing under our development agreement is including the members in a covenant. The covenant covers the 143 heads of household. And our bylaws, rules, and regulations is not governed for other family members that are in the house, generational families. So the problem is that we have agreement with HUD to give us vouchers, and that happened back in '05. If you know, we was trying to get foreclosed on. So that subsidy is gonna come once we release the subsidy off the HAP contract, it would turn it into vouchers.
It's a conversion of the contract to voucher.
But these people, they're gonna be displaced. And if for any reason they don't qualify to come back, for whatever the reason may be, you're gonna be able,
You
you're
know,
gonna
the
be,
units will be reserved for Sursum Court of Families, whether or not they get a subsidy from the Housing Authority or HUD, their units will still be there for them to return to. So it's not an issue, if you don't qualify, you don't get a unit. The units will be there. Now, whether or not you qualify for a subsidy from the Housing Authority or HUD is a different matter. But your unit will be there regardless.
now, just to clarify, do they own their unit or they own share?
They own share, the
Okay.
cooperative own it.
Okay.
Yes, ma'am.
So if they opt out, are they gonna get a substantial amount of money to opt out?
You owe $20 or more million on that property. Whatever that property sells for, you have to pay off that debt. And once that debt, the shares will be broken down. And as you know, we've been there 40, 50 years. So to leave without anything, to me, is an embarrassment. These families deserve some type of retirement, to leave something to their kids. And I don't think nowhere in this city you have a development actually putting up 200 really affordable units. And as you said, developers normally have a quota of a third. We set this together for our families to have a right to return. We didn't use the word one-to-one replacement. They have a right to return as owners or shareholders. So my thing is that we come into you to present what we need to do to change the zoning for 199 affordable units, because it's too heavy burden on the 30%, 40%, whatever your AMI is. We have low income. So that subsidy is set aside to somebody paying $100 for rent, $25 for rent. So that's why we need the subsidy and the density to change this whole matter of how we develop this property. Other than that, if we don't do it that way, it's the point that it won't get done. And I explained to everybody, we have a debt. We have a debt we owe to HUD and Kelly. So that is no secret. But the secret is that we at a place now, if it don't get done, it's over. If it do get done, we members have a new life.
Yeah.
So we can't keep talking about the old, in which every time you read, when we put this in the paper, everybody start calling and want to have their opinion. They had 5 years to help us get here. Then nobody reached out to us. We had to go to the city and fight to get here. So I feel if we were doing anything wrong, the city would have brought it to our attention the same way they did in '05 when Keller had. They had 2 or 3 hearings in regards about misplacing the member. We're not going to misplace ourselves. But if somebody else want to misplace us, that's a different story. So I understand about your concern, but these members, they take us a vote. It's not just predicated on me. I represent them. If they wasn't here today, they wouldn't know what we'd be saying. So they took the time to come and hear for themselves. Any disparities or disbelief, they wouldn't be here neither. So this is not just about me. It's about me representing these families and my mother. So my thing is, I want to come to you honestly, in which I don't have no other reason not to do it. But I know in most of the projects y'all run through, ain't nobody building 199 affordables and not asking the district for nothing. We know we're going to need some help, might go get tax credit to actually make this work. But you got to look at how they're going to devalue the property. They might have some coming, but once they pay out everybody's debt, it's nothing to it. So we deserve a right to come back. That's why the 143 head of households has a covenant for those families. And our bylaws and rules, we don't govern the whole family. That comes through HUD. See, once we get with HUD and they send it to DC Housing Authority, they will have their own system. We can't tell them how to run it, who's qualified. So I know if people did what they did was wrong 20 or 30 years, is now coming back and affecting them about coming back. So we not blind by what the criteria to bring them back.
Right.
So the second criteria would be on us as owners to bring the criteria for them to come back. You got a HUD criteria, and you're gonna have a criteria when they come back under management. Who do you want to live in this property? We can be honest with this. Most people don't want the same people there that left. I'm not thinking about that. I'm thinking about the people that's there 20 to 30 years, don't pay their due to come back to Sursum Court and live just like anybody in the future. So the affordability of this piece is very burdensome.
Yeah.
So I hope I answered your question.
Okay, so, I'm really done unless there are any more questions. I'm gonna turn it over to the architect. Wait, do what, or,
No, go ahead.
okay, we can turn it over to the architect to walk through the plans, and then after his presentation, if there are any more questions or concerns, we're happy to answer.
Thanks, Lila. Okay, so in talking about the design of the project, the small area plan really drove the design because it set the overall envelope for what we needed to design this project to sort of fit within. One of the items that was a big driver of the project was the extension of the street grid. Currently, this is actually showing the new site plan, or at least the plat plan that we're developing, but currently there's a horseshoe access from M Street into the site. So essentially, Sursum Corda is not connected to the community because of its street grid situation. Small area plan is requiring us to extend Pierce Street from First Street over to First Place. To essentially, it breaks the site into a north block and a south block. What we've done in addition to extending the street here, we've extended First Place down to L Street to further sort of improve that connectivity, that safety issue, that line of sight that comes with having the street grid sort of carry through. It also helps us with phasing the site because it's such a large project, it's not going to be built in one single phase. So as a byproduct of extending First Place down to L Street, we end up with a nice kind of an amenity and a buffer at this lower corner of the site that's adjacent to the Mount Airy Baptist Church. So that really gives them about a 140-foot buffer away from the new development that's going to occur on the south block here. So between the opportunity for a green space here adjacent to the church and for use by the community, there's also the existing park that's at the corner of First Street and L Street that's kind of dilapidated at this point. So we've been challenged to kind of integrate that into the design of the site. So the site is being actually. So the site's being rezoned from R4 to C3C, and which means you could go up to an FAR of 8. And what we're proposing is an FAR of 4.63. So what we have here is two site plans. The site plan here represents the phase 1 of the project. So the south block would be built, as well as all the roads and surrounding infrastructure would go in addition to both of these parks. So this would be essentially a finished project for this portion of the site. This plan here shows the ultimate build out of the site, showing the north block. So let me start with the south block. So the south block has about 430 units, of which 143 of the units that they were speaking about will be incorporated into that 430 units. 143 will be for the returning residents. The balance of that, up to 199, will get built in the north block in phase 2 of the project. So our concept for the site, because once we extend the street grids through, is we have about a 500-foot wide block, which is pretty wide. So we've bisected the site and introduced a pedestrian promenade that connects from M Street down to Pierce Street down to L Street. There's about a 36-foot drop in elevation from this corner of the site down to this corner of the site. So there's a lot of topography and stepping that has to be kind of figured out in how the buildings and the streets step down the hill. But this concept of this promenade in kind of creating that pedestrian access starts up here on M Street. M Street, we think, will be a residential, really our best opportunity for residential because of its exposure on M Street. So we've got retail along these two faces. We're turning it in to this promenade where the walls are splayed open, trying to get a little more visibility into it. We've got opportunities for outdoor dining here. So then as you move south, you then get we'll drop down some steps down to Pierce Street. And Pierce Street, this is kind of the heart of the project. This is kind of a tabletop plaza. And we're doing Pierce Street as a private street, which will give us some flexibility to control what happens on this street. Say if they wanted to close this off for a short period of time for a farmer's market or some sort of festival, they can do that. We've kind of figured out how you would still access the north block from Pierce Street. So just moving further south is where we start to, this axis starts to open up, and we're trying to incorporate this park and pull it into the sort of the center of the site, because it's not on axis with our promenade. So between sort of the gestures we've done to pull the park into the project, we've also created this east-west connection between these two green spaces, between these two buildings here, where we have a muse kind of a setup where there would be walk-up residential units on both sides, kind of framing that east-west axis. So finally, well, let me also add, what we've done around the perimeter is along the streets, because of that grade change, we're providing walk-ups to these units from both First Street and First Place that will still help activate the sidewalks and kind of give it more of a neighborhood feel. So not everything is happening in the center of the site. There's activity kind of surrounding the entire site. So in terms of massing, we're at a stage 1 PUD submission, so it's just a massing at this point. There's no architecture to the project. So what the small area plan has asked for is us to lower the massing as you head towards First Street, and lower the massing, which we've done, and then lower the massing as you head towards the Mount Airy Baptist Church, which we've done, and then some, because of how we've done the buffer here with the adjacent park. Small area plan also talks about how the massing should increase in height towards North Capitol Street. In our case, it's towards M Street, where the existing street is a wider street, and the existing buildings in this area are much taller, so it's more appropriate for the height to be at this end of the site. So I think we've conformed to the small area plan in sort of all the points that really kind of set up the configuration of the site. And then what we've really been concentrating on is just how to integrate all these parks and the promenade and the semi-public courtyards into this nice place for the residents. So.
And setback off the Sobrano.
Okay. The small area plan does mention how the project should be in scale with the adjacent Severna property. So we have stepped down to the south to the Severna. We also have the park as a nice buffer. It's a setback from the Severna. And so, yes, our lowest buildings are along L Street.
Questions from the commission?
A question about the phasing, phase 1 and phase 2. So in the phase 1 illustration, you have the northern block, if you will, between Pierce and M Street as a green space. Is that intended to be demolished at the same time as the southern block, and is going to be maintained as an empty field, or what's the intended use of that space while the construction is taking place in phase 1?
To be maintained as green space, but all of the buildings, at least right now, it's planned that all of the buildings will come down at the same time.
And is that for economies of scale, or is there an opportunity to be able to retain some of the units so that the residents would be able to stay until they'd be able to transition to the phase 1?
The units are in such poor condition right now. I think keeping them on site while doing construction probably is not in the best interest of the residents.
Yeah.
All that.
We had a conversation with her, and one of the recommendations when Mary Ann was there, she stated if they qualify for vouchers, they should be living in the best condition that they are. Then you have to look at the health and environment of it, with OSHA, air quality,
Right.
rodents running, because once you start doing all this, you're gonna have more problems trying to address the problems if you wasn't there, if you there. That's very important, to have the safety of the families.
Is the completion date being done in 2 phases?
The project is contemplated in 2 phases, 2 or 3, actually. But
So
go ahead.
the phase where the 143 folks would be coming back is which phase?
The first phase.
And they're all going into the same building?
No, so they would be spread across the south parcel, which is, how big is this, the south parcel? There are 3 buildings proposed on the south
And
parcel.
who's going into the building above, on your picture?
The north
Yeah.
parcel? Well, I mean, those would ostensibly be the remaining, so we plan 143 affordable units on the south parcel. The balance of the affordable units will be on the north parcel, just so you don't have an over-concentration of affordable units on
So they're
the,
not all gonna be in the same
No.
building and then
No.
everybody else is
No.
a different?
absolutely not.
So everybody know my question. How would you all bring every family back?
They're not going?
What do you,
Every-
I don't,
Everybody ain't coming back.
I don't,
But-
Doesn't necessarily have to
I don't
be-
understand.
You need to let me get on that microphone.
The question is, if a family wanna come back,
Mhm.
meaning someone with more than 1 or 2, 3, 4, 5, and 6 bills, I mean, with a big family, how would you bring them back? How would this plan include them in that too?
This project, we have not done the unit mix and layout, that's part of stage 2, but when we get to stage 2, all of the units that are planned for the first phase will correlate to the current households in Sursum Corda. So if there's a larger family in Sursum Corda now, we will reserve a larger unit for that family. We are in the process of doing that unit mix now, but we've taken surveys of the existing units at Sursum Corda, and I can tell you, based on our preliminary findings, the unit sizes at Sursum Corda are no bigger than what's being proposed in the new development. So even if you had a 5 or 6 bedroom